Okay, now the first of Pantera's 3 truly classic albums, the iconic Vulgar Display of Power. Like I mentioned before, the fucking quantum leap in terms of focused songwriting, in terms of innovation within groove metal, in terms of a new level of confidence and power, in terms of just sheer meanness. Between Cowboys and this record, it is absolutely insane. It is a completely different band in a lot of ways. All that leftover 80s sheen is just stripped away, both in terms of the songwriting and in terms of the production. The lyrics take on a much more visceral and personal and sometimes ugly tone. Phil Anselmo in particular goes from kind of jack of all trades without a home into the most singular and identifiable vocal performance of the 1990s. I mean, he just blends it all together. Hardcore punk, thrash, a touch of hip-hop with songs like No Good and Walk, a touch of traditional metal, and he just blends all of that together and matches some of the best riffs and grooves of all time with an equally perfect vocal. All that said though, this album is widely acknowledged as one of the top 10 greatest metal albums of all time, so now I have to say exclusively negative things about it so I can defend picking it number 3 as opposed to number 1, which is where most people would put it. So here we go. Number 1, it's front-loaded. The 5 songs everyone loves are the first 5 songs, and even within those, I find A New Level in particular to be the most overrated song in the Pantera catalog, with this really overindulgent bridge and solo section that I find really off-putting. But seriously, front-loaded. You get to the second half of this record, and sure, Rise, that's a blistering cut. I also think that Regular People has some of Dime's best riffing, but tracks like By Demons Be Driven, I mean, aside from the fact that it was in a really big Hollywood movie, 20 years later, that's kind of cool. Besides that, it's extremely uneventful and boring. I think Live in a Hole is a similarly slow-moving track. No Good has aged horribly considering some of the cringy nu metal stuff that came in its wake. I think people just remember the ballad Hollow as a very strong closer to the record, which it is, and they forget those pretty significant dips in between. The drums are relatively boring on here and a bit too minimalist at times, a bit too Black Album, if you will. The guitar tone, speaking of the Black Album, way too scooped. The mastering, way too quiet. Scooped guitars in particular actually actively prevent you from hearing some of the great subtleties in Dime's work, like those dissonant chords that show up in tracks like New Level or Regular People. Like you need really high quality studio headphones to fully appreciate Dime's rhythm playing on here, and that's no good if you ask me. So for someone looking to get into Pantera's music, the first 5 tracks on Vulgar are, I mean, it's some of the best and most influential metal ever laid down. It's a great place to start, but as a body of work, Pantera would go on to outperform A Vulgar Display of Power.